Hi, I'm your host, Ella Nicole,
And I'm your host, Eileen Nikita.
and welcome to the Instant Caregiver. Before we get started, we'd like to ask that you please like and subscribe and share our podcast.
Peace.
So, today we're actually going to be talking about relationships and caregiving. How to maintain them, how to navigate through them. And really, it's just going to be us talking about the relationships that we had and the things that happened while we were trying to maintain relationships. And we're talking romantic relationships, we're talking about family relationships, and then also friendships. So, Nikita's going to get started. Nikita's going to get started.
Relationships and caregiving typically do not mix, when you think about the two, because there's so many different things that are going on. And I'm going to be honest, I tried to date when I was being a caregiver, but it was very, very difficult, and the reason why is because when you're a caregiver, you are so focused on providing care that everything else kind of takes a back burner. So, I'm going to tell you some of the things that I did and why it didn't work. But when you're trying to date and you're a caregiver, the most important thing you have to have between you and the person that you're dating is really good communication. And sometimes it's a little hard to be totally honest with someone to say, yeah, I am a caregiver. I can't see you on these days. It is very hard to tell people upfront that you're a full-time caregiver because, not that they're going to judge you, but it's just hard to say you're a caregiver. And, that's the first important thing. You got to have good communication. And the person that you're trying to date, they have to be able to understand that they're not going to be your number one. And a lot of people have a problem with that. And so, like for my situation, I was dating, especially before my mom got sick. Well, it was more difficult once she actually came home with us because it was 24-hour care and I was up, in the middle of the night. And, so it was just difficult to put a regular schedule together to date. And so these are some of the things that I realized as I was trying to date. Like I said, the first one was communication. The second one is if you do find someone to date, you do have to make it a priority. Even though you have a lot of stuff going on, it still needs to be a priority. And also, it also needs to be something that you schedule. Like maybe it's one day a week you can go out with this person. And, and again, this person has to be on board with it. And one of the things that you have to realize is that you are in a very vulnerable state during this time. And so you have to make sure that you ask for what it is that you need. Because when you're a caregiver, you spend so much time thinking about other people, making sure everybody else is okay. And even when you date someone, if that's your nature, you're going to think, you're going to want to make this person happy. But you have to figure out what makes you happy as well. That's something that is, as a caregiver, you have that giving nature, but you got to also figure out what's important to you.
Yeah, and can I just add the difference? And we should just kind of talk about it. I did not really date. When our mom was in a nursing home, it was hard working because not only working and dating and having a loved one in a nursing home, because for us, we were caregivers even when she was in a nursing home. We were there every day,
right?
Because we had to make sure she was eating dinner. And I would have a lot of people want to take me out to dinner.
Right.
And during the week, I was too tired because I was going to see my mom and I saw her even on the weekends. And then I wanted to have a day to myself. So I didn't even have the energy because even though she was getting care at a nursing home, the emotional roller coaster of having a loved one, either taking care of them yourself or having them in a nursing home, for me, made it difficult to even connect with people because I find that a lot of my conversations were about caregiving or the nursing home. And,
right.
Guys trying to get to know you. He's not really trying to hear about, the urine smell that you had when you went into a nursing home. But so for me, I would say I really had not dated. I've been on some dates. I've had, people come over and we watch movies, when my mom wasn't here. But when my mom was here, for those last 3 years, And then the pandemic really helped. I'm not gonna
Right,
lie. So for
right.
me,
That was my excuse. I didn't date when the pandemic was coming on because I didn't want to expose, go to a restaurant and then come back to my mom, and a lot of
yeah,
guys just did not want to hear that. They were like, okay,
yeah, yeah.
so
I had this guy that blocked me after he tried to take me out of club. I'm like, you realize, Mom, I'm taking care of my sick mom. I'm not going to a restaurant. I'm not, and they got upset. So I was like, okay,
yeah.
so
And they
that's
even
my romantic relationship. That's all I got.
but I mean,
That's all I
I don't look. I can't tell you anything successful. I'm just telling you what I learned during this process. But I know there are a lot of dating groups now for caregivers where you can kind of connect with people who.
They
Yeah, I
are?
know. Yeah, they are. I saw it on
I
the
didn't know that.
internet. And the reason why they're so successful is because they understand what the other person is going through. Because if you're not a caregiver, I mean, I'm not trying to be funny. This world is so caught up in, it's very self-absorbed. You know what I mean? If it doesn't affect them or make them, it's people are just not going to want to be a part of that. And
Yeah, and I
so,
didn't have the energy to give to somebody else. I could barely give the energy to my own self-care.
right,
I'm
right.
being honest. Yeah.
I know, yeah.
So
And and then there's this part of if you even do try to go date, you feel guilty, because the one time that I did go out a couple of times when mommy was here, I felt guilty because I felt like, ooh, what if something happens and I'm not here? You have to really find ways to not feel that guilt of going out, and if something,
that
God
caregiver
forbid,
guilt is real.
it is real. It is so real. And, those are things that for me, dating while caregiving was not successful. I mean, it is just very hard. And the other part is that even though mommy was here for 3 years, our mom was here for 3 years, she, like we said, she was sick in a nursing home for a while. And so is it realistic to say that you're not going to date while you're being a caregiver? I don't know, because you're putting your life on hold. I know you did it.
I did. I did. Like,
I know.
And I just had the point where I was like, okay, I just can't really focus on it. I just didn't think about it anymore because my mind was so filled with just the things I had to do for her. And I will talk about it, but I have anxiety issues. Mm-hmm. So my anxiety went to a 10. I couldn't manage dating and or a relationship. And, because we're going to even talk about relationships with your friends and your family. It changes. And, when our mom first got sick, we're not throwing people under the bus. We're just being honest. But, you realize that sometimes it's just going to be you. You may have a whole bunch of family members. They may be right around the corner, but they're not for us. And it may be for other people. But we learned quickly that as far as having people help, it wasn't an option.
Right. Right.
And that did affect relationships. And, we had some strife, and I've heard, and from my friends, that it's normal, that family members tend to have major issues where people aren't talking. And we've had those instances with our own, immediate family, where someone wanted us to do something that we just weren't able to do because we were taking care of mommy. Right. I just didn't have the energy anytime that I got to myself, which really wasn't any.
Right. Right. Especially
I wanted to just sit.
Yeah. Huh? That's especially when the pandemic hit. We couldn't go anywhere for the first, 12 months. We didn't go anywhere. Right.
And then to be quite honest, we didn't want to because our mom just went in the decline.
Yeah.
And for me, I couldn't enjoy myself. So I did a couple of things. I did one thing during the pandemic. I did one social thing before Delta hit. And I noticed, I felt like my conversations was all about my mom, and I really didn't have any point of reference, so even with family members. So I was kind of going back to, as far as family relationships, in order to continue in those relationships, we learned in the middle. I won't say early on, because early on we were like, we had some issues. We expected people to do more than they did. But I learned from someone that you have to let go of those expectations. Right. People are coming from their level of experience, their level of comfortableness. Is that a word? I don't know. But they're coming from their level of comfort. And it's not for me to judge. I know what I can do.
Right.
And I know what, my expectations for myself are going to be different from others. So when I let go of those expectations from other people, then my relationship with my family members completely changed.
Right. And and another thing I realized is that people, they have a hard time seeing their loved one in a state of where they're declining or they're sick. So in their mind, I mean, not making excuses for anyone, but they would rather remember that person as they were. They don't want to
Mm-hmm.
see them. And I get
Mm-hmm.
that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a very self-absorbed way of thinking, but I get it and I understand it. So like you said, I'm
Yeah.
not going to blame anyone.
Yeah. No, we don't have any hard feelings. Like I said, people do what they can. You meet people at their level.
Right.
Okay. If their level is they can't see her in that state, but they want to call and do Zoom time, or they want to, then okay, that's fine. At least you still get to see them, as long as she had us, that's all that matters. So when I let go of expectations and then I learned how to meet people at their level, that changed everything. All that anxiety and frustration and a little bit of anger, that I had went away, because it's not for me to judge other people and what they can and can't do. Our mom did not get any less love because the people, didn't come see her or didn't do anything for her. It didn't really matter at the end because she got the love that she needed.
Right. Until the very end. And and another part about relationships, something I regret, but I can't beat myself up. But when I was being a caregiver, I did not maintain my friendship like I really wanted to. I would feed our mom, and she did not want me talking on the phone. Like I can remember like it was yesterday, like if I was on the phone, I was feeding her, she would let me know that is not something that she wanted. And and I couldn't talk to my friends, you know what I mean? I may have texted them every now and then, but it was very hard to maintain relationship like that, friendship.
Yeah. And I think, again, it's the individual caregiver, their experience. I just happen to have a lot of friends who are like me. They're very aggressive, and sometimes they won't take no for an answer.
Right.
So when you have friends who understand, and they were coming from a place of love, and again, they were accepting me on the level. I don't know, I'm so emotional. But anyway, they accepted me on the level that I was at. They knew that I could not be at everything. But if they had a Zoom party, they invited me because, okay, Ellen's going to do a Zoom party. Or if I could go to a party and I was this is before, we're talking pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, because we're still in a pandemic. But I'm just saying there were a lot of times, even when my mom was in a nursing home, where I really did not go to all the brunches because I had to make sure she was okay during the week, or during Saturdays, just in case she was being fed or whatever. And my mind really was never 100% where I was. I could have been at a party, or I could have been at a club. My mind was always on my mom. So I had friends who accepted me on my level, and the ones who didn't, of course, I'm not friends with them. There's no hard feelings or anything, but people move on. And that was one of my biggest fears, is that I would have lost all of my relationships. But we're not necessarily out of the pandemic, we're in an endemic. But my friends call me. They want to make sure I get out. They just want to see their eyes. I have friends who come from out of town and they'll just come see me for 5 minutes. They met me at my level. So I feel very blessed that I have friends. And I think for us, because we've been sharing our stories so much on social media, they understood where I was coming from. So it didn't seem like an excuse when I was like, oh, I really can't. My mom this or my mom that. So having friends who are understanding, I think our ability to be vulnerable, because our friends have seen us through this journey for this past 9 years, from when my mom first got sick to when she passed away. So I think being open with your friends and explaining, you don't have to explain every single detail, but they know and they understand that's pretty much where you are and where your life is as a caregiver. You can't be the friend that you were before.
Right. That's so true. And it, even after the fact, it still changes you. You're not going to go back to the way that you were, by 100%, because, you still are grieving now you're in that process. So.
Right. See, you're right, because, we're not caregivers anymore, but we were caregivers in a pandemic, and that changes you. So for me, even just yesterday, I went to a restaurant for the first time, and my friends were very patient. My sorors were very patient. They were like, okay, they met me at my level, and I kept my mask on. At first, I started drinking with a straw and a mask, but then that didn't really work out. I was trying to drink mimosas with a straw, but that didn't work. So, just adjusting. And now they're like, okay, so they're meeting me at my level. They're letting me know that they're available when I am, and they're gonna allow me to be social in a way that I'm comfortable with, because now you're juggling grieving with not longer being a caregiver and then trying to navigate this new world of you.
Right. Yeah. And it's like you're trying to find a place where you fit in now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. So really, that's pretty much all we're talking about today. It's a pretty brief show, but we just want to touch on relationships, and we can ask you guys in the comment box, how do you guys maintain relationships? Are there any, or if you have one, how did you keep it? Or did you lose a relationship? So just get a comment in the box. Let us know what are some ways that you cultivate or keep your relationships as a caregiver. Yeah, please do. Like, comment, and share, and also please subscribe.
Until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.